Okay, anybody from the global business management? Natalie, hi.
Hi, how
Good. Anna? Anna, hi. Hi, hello. I know you're from Russia. I remember you clearly. And someone from Korea. We have someone from Korea. South Korea.
He's not here.
He's not here. Okay. Because I met some of the students from my program previously. I'm trying to remember their name. I promise I must remember all their names by now. Hello. Good. So let me see. What time is it now? Okay. Should we get started? Yeah. So good afternoon. Welcome to our first lecture on global business. So before I get started, I want to ask you a couple of questions. So while you're here, what is it do you hope to learn from this module, and what experience do you want to gain through the study of this module? Any answer? Your expectations are very important for us to improve the quality of this module on a continuous basis. Although you might not directly benefit from that, but student next year will benefit from your feedback and your expectations. Any answer? So what do you hope to learn? And what kind of experience do you want to gain?
I want to learn about international trade.
Excellent, international trade, yes. Especially the trade war between UK, United States, China, yeah. And now, unfortunately, the sanctions against Ukraine. Please.
And the dynamics of global business.
Okay.
Dynamics of global business.
You want to know global business?
Dynamics of global business.
Final, sorry.
Dynamics.
Dynamics. Yeah, okay. Dynamics of global business. Actually, that's a great answer. Any other answer? You want to know international trade, you want to know the dynamic of global business. Any other answer from this side? Any expectations? Any answers?
some global legislation,
Huh?
some global legislation how to trade and things like this, which is connected with the law.
Yes, global legislation, how to trade. Yes, especially dealing with WTO as well. Actually, these are all great answers. So, let me introduce myself briefly. So my name is Helen Xia. I'm a professor of international business and innovation. I joined academia since 2008. I'm experienced in researching issues in the area of international business innovation and entrepreneurship, specifically in the areas of emerging science and technology-based industries, open innovation, SME innovation strategies, and boy global type of companies. Okay? I'm experienced in teaching issues in the area of international business, strategy, innovation, and entrepreneurship. So this is my email address. So if any of you have questions about this module or about your coursework, or if you're interested in doing a PhD after your master's study, so you're welcome to drop me a line through email so we can sort of arrange a mutually convenient time to talk either through Teams or in person. Okay? So, I have introduced myself already, but what about you? Where are you from? So this is a list of nationalities of the students I taught over the years. So can you find your own nationality on this list? If not, please raise your hand and let me know. I'll include your nationality in my own database. Please, where from?
Bangladesh.
Oh, Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Am I
No.
Oh, sorry. I should include at the beginning. I had a student from Bangladesh before. For sure. Thank you. Any other? You couldn't please. Pakistan. There. Pakistan.
Yes. Yeah, another Singapore.
Yeah. Singapore. Yeah. Any you who cannot find your nationalities on the CSP? Sorry? Oh, Lithuanian. Okay, good. No, no, Lithuanian. I don't have any students on Lithuanian. You are the first one. My pleasure to have you in this class. Any other? Please.
Mine, Colombia.
Colombia. Oh my goodness. I discovered a new word. Thank you. Any other? Please. Nepal. Nepal. So many. I have so many surprises today. Any other? No. Please.
Mongolia. Mongolia.
Oh, Mongolia. Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Chinese.
Oh, we have already on the page. You can't find your nationality. Yeah? Okay, I discovered a completely new word, a new dynamic in this class, which is really helpful for our study as well. Excellent. I have so many first times now. I'm so delighted to have all of you or include all of you in my class. So, by the way, this is the QR code for today's session, and you can just attend that. Wait for a few minutes. So, by the way, do you know each other before? Yeah. Some of you might know, some of you might not know. So why don't we spend a couple of minutes introducing yourself to your neighbors? Although you might know each other, but you might not necessarily sit together, right? So just spend a couple of minutes introducing yourself to your neighbors. If you finish, registering your attendance. Okay? Have you done? Yeah? Okay. Now, what should you learn? Okay? Actually, what should you expect to learn from this module? Precisely, these are the intended learning outcomes of this module. So, by completion of this module, you should be able to demonstrate an understanding of recent trends in global business environment, including the globalization of enterprise competition and innovation in advanced and emerging economies, and the importance of formal and informal differences in global economies and how this impacts strategic decisions. And you should be able to understand the formulation of and implementation of international business strategies, international business in the context of different business functions, such as marketing, finance, beyond the home country perspective. You should be able to develop a good set of skills to explore and assess a range of alternative resources to analyze international business environment, conduct a macro analysis of developed, emerging and developing economies, design, plan, and implement entry strategies in multinational firms, determine and justify the use of suitable strategic options. You should be able to critically evaluate the role of various business functions in implementing global strategies. And finally, you should be able to discuss, explain, and critique concepts in international business. So there will be 11 sessions between 24th of June and 26th 26th of July, at the same time in the same room every Tuesday and Thursday. Okay, so on 14th of July, there's no lecture, but instead there will be an online Q&A session on Blackboard. You can access through Blackboard Collaborate. So the session is only for some of you if you have any questions about the module or about your coursework. So you can join online through Blackboard. But if you don't have any question about the module, you don't have to attend the session on the 14th of July. And also, what I'll do is I will upload the slide with your QR code on Blackboard so that you can register your attendance even if you don't go to the lecture. You can still register your attendance. The QR code is available on the slide. I will upload it later on the Blackboard. Okay? And actually on 28th of July, there's also no lecture. And the period is just for you to prepare for your coursework, because you only have a month or so to complete your summative coursework. And I noticed in your own timetable, there are 3 additional sessions scheduled after 28th of July. So these are the mistakes made by the time-taking team. There aren't any lecture after 28th of July. But in this class precisely, there isn't any lecture after 26th of July. 26th is the final lecture. Is that clear? Excellent. Good. So, how will you be assessed? I guess this is a question that you care most about, have the motivation for you to come to today's lecture, right? So as you might see on the module outline, you'll be assessed by 100% coursework, but there will be 2 pieces. So first, you will have a formative coursework. Of course, it doesn't count anything of this module. The word limit is 750 words plus 10% variation. And the deadline is by 3 p.m. 19th of July. Okay, so you need to submit an electronic copy online, either through Blackboard or eVision. So I would strongly encourage everyone to try and have a go with the formative coursework, because the formative coursework is designed to help you develop your summative coursework. It's an important opportunity for you to identify the gaps in your knowledge and understanding as early as possible before the summative coursework. Okay? And it's also an opportunity for you to receive some feedback in terms of how to structure or approach your summative coursework. Okay? So please do make sure that you have a go with the formative coursework. At least you can get some feedback, right? And to make sure you're on the right track, right? And then we'll have a 100% summative coursework, account for 100% of your final mark in this module. And the word limit is 2,500 words plus 10% variation. And the deadline is by 3 p.m. the 5th of September. And of course, an electronic copy is required. So you can submit electronic copy either online or through eVision. So we'll have a revision lecture, I think on the 24th of July. So in that session, in your revision section on the 24th of July, I'll go through the detailed requirement of your summative coursework. So do make sure you attend that revision session. And in terms of the formative coursework, and I will go through the details with you in our next session, which is this Thursday's session. Yeah, so do make sure you also attend our session on Thursday, the second session on Thursday. Yeah, the day after tomorrow. Okay. So these are the assessment. So what will we look for in the assessment? First and foremost, you need to demonstrate the intended learning outcome of this module. And then you can have a look at the marking criteria on the module outline I uploaded on Blackboard. Okay? So this is the recommended textbook, Daniels et al. 2018. And obviously, there's a latest version just came out last year. Yeah, and I wouldn't use it as your textbook for this year because I'm still in the process of inspecting this latest copy. So you don't have to buy the textbook. There's an electronic version of the textbook available in the library. So you can access either through the library website or through Blackboard. So this is the link. Yeah. So you don't have to buy a textbook. But if you feel that you still want a hard copy, and I would recommend you to buy the latest 17 version, unless you can get the 16 version at a much cheaper price. Okay, but basically you don't have to buy the textbook. Okay, there's the electronic copy available in the library. So, method of delivery, there will be a combination of lectures and individual troubleshooting surgery sessions, and also directed in-class discussion, especially in terms of case study discussions. And most importantly, your self-directed reading. Okay, so do make sure you read the textbooks on the relevant content we cover in each lecture. And if by any chance you do not have time or you forget to read the textbook, do make sure after the session you complete your key readings. And I also uploaded some additional reading for you, and if you're interested, but it's on top of your essential reading, the textbook. Okay. So the content of this module actually are structured around the international business context within which a multinational firm operates. So for example, we'll be looking at the economic environment. Some title here, such as regional economic integration, trade theories, and international financial market in sessions 1, 2, and 9. And we'll also be looking at the political environment, such as government intervention in sessions 2 and 3. In sessions 4 and 5, we'll be looking at the social environment, such as culture and corporate social responsibility. So finally, we'll be looking at the firm itself in terms of its foreign entry strategies and organizational structure. Okay. In addition, we'll also look at some sort of contemporary issues in international business. So far as I know, most of you are from emerging market countries, right? So it would be intriguing to examine some hot issues around doing business in your own country or in emerging market countries. So this will be our last session of the module. Right. Any questions before I move on? No? Okay. So these are my office hours between 2 and 5 p.m. every Tuesday right after the lecture. So you're welcome to pop by either individually or as a group. You don't have to book unless you need a fixed appointment. So you need to drop me an email to book appointment in advance. Okay. Otherwise, feel free to pop by between 3 and 5 every Tuesday. Okay. So for next time, please do make sure you check your materials and readings before the session, before Thursday's session. Okay. Now, let's have a look at regional economic integration. Now, regional economic integration is also called regional integration. So it refers to the growing economic interdependence when two or more countries within a geographic region form alliance aimed at reducing barriers for trade and investment. But since the Second World War, most countries have sought to collaborate in order to achieve some form of economic integration. So in fact, more than 50% of the world trade today actually takes place under some form of preferential trade agreement signed by groups of countries. Okay, so this trend is based on the premise that by cooperating, countries within a common geographic region connected by historical, linguistic, cultural, political, and economic factors can gain mutual benefits. So the free trade results from regional integration, helps countries attain higher living standards by encouraging specialization, lowering prices, offering greater choices, enhancing productivity, and using resources more efficiently. So, what is the economic bloc? Now, an economic bloc is a geographic area consisting of two or more countries that agree to integrate regionally by removing tariffs and other non-tariff trade barriers to the cross-border free flow of products, services, capital, and in more advanced stages, labor. So can you give me an example of economic bloc? Of course, European Union apparently is an example of economic bloc. Any other examples? Someone from Colombia? You must know. Do we have someone from Mexico? No? Okay.
So we used to have with Costa Rica.
Yeah. You used to have
an island that is closer to them, so they are
like a economic bloc.
economic, yeah.
Can you recognize this map? No one from Mexico, no one from US, no one, please.
NAFTA?
Yes, North American Free Trade Agreement is another example of economic bloc. Yeah. So let's have a look at the European Union, for example. So it was established in 1999. The 6 initial founding member countries are Belgium, Italy, Germany, France, Luxembourg, and Netherlands. So new EU member countries are mostly low-cost manufacturing sites, such as Hungary, Poland, Czech Republic, Romania, Bulgaria, etc. So these new EU member countries, so they are the satellites of the previous Soviet Union. And most of these Eastern European countries are emerging market countries with a faster economic growth rate. Okay? And then we have example of this one. You know the Mercosur bloc. Anybody from? No, you wouldn't know. Mercosur bloc is also called Southern Common Market. It's the strongest economic bloc in South America. So it was established in 1991, and the 4 initial founding member countries are Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay. Anybody from Brazil? No, I don't have anybody from Brazil. Okay. So the Mercosur bloc actually established the free flow of products and services among member countries with a common external tariff with non-member countries. And then we have the ASEAN bloc. You must know ASEAN bloc, right? And most of you, I think, are from the ASEAN bloc countries, right? So ASEAN bloc is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, okay? ASEAN bloc actually was created in 1967 with the aim of maintaining political stability and promoting social and economic development among its member countries, such as Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. Anybody from Thailand? Excellent, good. We have quite a few. So ASEAN bloc has created a free trade area where many tariffs were reduced to less than 5%. However, further integration has been slowed, primarily because of the huge economic differences among member countries. So, for example, oil-rich Brunei has a per capita income around $50,000 US, whereas Vietnam is only around $3,000 US. So, because of these huge economic differences among its member countries, ASEAN bloc is very unlikely to advance beyond its current free trade area status for decades to come. But interestingly, anybody from the UK? So many, good. So, you know, last year, what happened? UK joined the ASEAN bloc as a dialogue partner in 2021 post-Brexit. Okay, so joining ASEAN bloc as a dialogue partner not only provide the UK with access to all countries under the ASEAN bloc, but also an important opportunity to work closely with other dialogue partner countries such as China, India, and United States. So this is a thin block. Yeah, you must know what happens in 2021 for UK. Yeah, and then we have this APEC. It's Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. So majority from the countries in this block. China is a member of APEC. Yeah. So the APEC actually was established in 1989. So APEC stands for Greater Economic Integration among Pacific Rim countries. So it incorporated 21 countries along both sides of the Pacific, including countries such as Australia. Anyone from Australia, by the way? No. Australia, China, Canada, Japan, Mexico, Russia, and so on. So its members actually account for 85% of the regional trade and 1/3 of the world population and more than half of the world GDP. So APEC aims for removing trade and investment barriers in the near future, but again, the progress has been slow because of the political turmoil in some member countries and failing to agree on some fundamental issues. And also these member countries that have their different national economic priorities, and the inclusion of less affluent Asian countries along strong international traders, such as the United States, Australia, Canada, Japan, complicated agreement on a wide range of issues. So the APEC is not so far a very successful economic bloc. And the third bloc, which is Australia and New Zealand closer economic relations. So in 1966, Australia and New Zealand actually concluded an important agreement that actually removed more than 80% of the tariffs between these two countries. And so the third bloc gained greatest importance when Australia and New Zealand, actually when Britain joined the European Union. So they gained greater importance because Australia and New Zealand lost their privileged status in the British market when Britain joined the European Union. But now it's the opposite. Yeah. So both countries regained their privileged status in the British market post-Brexit. And last year, the UK signed a trade deal with both countries in 2021 post-Brexit. You know that, yeah? Something you must know. Okay. And in 2009, the third bloc concluded important negotiations on creating a free trade area with the ASEAN bloc. Okay. So these are different examples of economic blocs. Now, if you think about the level of economic integration in these different examples of economic blocs, so you might identify 5 possible levels of economic integration. So we can think of these different levels as a continuum. So moving from low levels to high levels to the most advanced stage of economic integration, which is a political union. And no countries have yet achieved a political union. So if we have a look at low level, free trade area is the simplest, most common arrangement in which member countries agreed to gradually remove tariffs and other non-tariff trade barriers within the bloc. But each member country maintains an independent external trade policy with non-member countries. One example is the North America Free Trade Agreement. A ASEAN bloc is also an example of a free trade area. And then we have customs union. And it's similar to a free trade area, except member countries tend to harmonize their external trade policies by enacting common tariffs and non-tariff trade barriers on import from non-member countries. So this is a customs union. One example, the Mercosur bloc is a customs union. And do we have anybody from Turkey? No, Turkey is not a member of the EU, and the relationship between Turkey and the EU is a customs union. Okay, just so you know. And then we have common market. Common market is like a customs union, but member countries actually accept things such as product, services, labor, capital, and other factors of production can move freely among member countries. Do you know better what are factors of production? What are factors of production? Very simple. Factors of production are resources people use to produce a product, yeah, such as labor, capital, technology, entrepreneurship, innovation, and so on. Yeah. So any resource that people use to produce a product or economic output, we call these factors of production. So a common market is like a custom union, except product, services, labor, capital, technology, innovation, so on can move freely among member countries. So you know within the European Union we have the free movement law, yeah? And the European Union is an example of common market, and the EU put in place many common economic and labor policies. Okay? And then we have the economic union. The economic union, again, is like a common market, except member countries also aim for common monetary and fiscal policy, as well as standardized commercial regulations. Okay? So, for example, EU is moving towards economic union, but it's not yet an economic union because there are still countries who are using their own currencies, such as those Scandinavian countries. They're still using their Danish or Swedish kroners, right? Anybody from Scandinavian countries in this class? We don't have it. Oh yeah, where are you from?
Norway.
Oh, excellent. Oh, we will know more insight about Norway and the trading relationship between Norway and Europe. Good. So Norway is not part of the European Union, but it has a different relationship. I'll explain later. And also those Eastern European countries as well. They are still using their own currencies, such as Poland, Hungary, Bulgaria, Czech Republic, and Lithuania is still using. No, you use euro now. Okay. As far as I know, friends of mine from Czech Republic, so they're still using leu. Yeah, they're using leu in Czech Republic. So Scandinavian countries and Eastern European countries, they're all using their own currencies. That's why EU is not yet an economic union. But EU standardize their commercial regulations and product standard. So these are the 5 different levels of economic integration. Now the question is, why do countries form an economic bloc, or why do countries pursue regional economic integration? Why? Oh, sorry. You can see, but anyway, you can discuss with your neighbors. Do you think why should countries pursue regional economic integration?
To reduce production costs, trade costs, and the like.
Yeah, reduce production costs and trade costs, especially tariffs. Excellent. Any other answer? Any other answers? Is it?
Is a way to transfer labor.
Yeah, transfer labor. Anything else, please?
To jumpstart post-war economies. To jumpstart a post-war economy. So a post-conflict economy where multiple countries are involved and require like new production and so like how the EU was formed in the wake of World War II, basically. Like there was a lot of like disruption and post-war sort of economic activity that needs to be undone and rejuvenated.
Okay, so it helps develop the economy, boost the economy. Yeah, that's a great answer to boost the, to achieve economy with scale, increase efficiency, maximize resource usage, right? Excellent. Any other answer? And most of you are from your country, actually belong to an economic bloc, more or less, right? All of you, right? So any other answers? Because most of you I would expect most of you, or might, when you finish your study, you would go back to your country. You could work as a consultancy or, a regional executive in the future, And perhaps someone might work in the government to provide consultancy on international business. So you must know or have some ideas why should countries form an economic bloc or pursue regional economic integration.
For example, some countries, they need to protect their resources, such as, for example, I'm from Mongolia. For us, like the coal is a major resource, like strategic resource, and that we can like export to get the money to produce the GDP.
Yeah, so if
But the other products, such as like Chinese, they do things, we are taking it. And for that point, like we're exchanging two products between each other. On that point, we're like putting tariff and then tax to make it like, as you say, like economic efficiency to increase the scale of it or something. Yeah.
excellent, that's a great answer. So encouraging specialization. So countries specialize in the gas resources. Yeah, each country specializes in the resources that they're good at producing or they are famous for. Yeah, so they have plenty of resources in Mongolia, especially some unique minerals or whatever. And so Mongolia focuses on producing the products that they are famous for. They have a natural abundance of such resources. And other countries focus on their own, specialization. So the products they are good at producing. So in this way, we can make maximum use of resources and increase our efficiency, right? Very good answer. Any other answer? Any other answer?
Just simply encourage trade.
Encourage trade. Yes. Remove trade barriers within the economic bloc. Trade more with member countries. Okay. Let's go through them together. Right. I think more or less covered the first 2 points, but the last 2 points we haven't yet covered. But expanding market size, as we all know, increasing the size of market for firms within the economic bloc. For example, let's say Belgium has a population of 10 million people, whereas the European Union has a population of 500 people. So by joining the European Union, Belgian company can gain access to all these 500 million customers within the European Union, in addition to the 10 million customers at home. Okay? Enhance productivity and scale economies. Larger markets always facilitate scale economies. So internationalization within the bloc helps firms learn how to compete outside the bloc. So competition and efficient resource usage actually leads to lower prices for the bloc customers. Attracting investment from outside the bloc. So compared to investing in standalone countries, foreign firms prefer to invest in countries belonging to economic bloc. So companies such as General Mills, Tata, and Samsung invested heavily in EU member countries because the factories they built there can gain preferential treatment on export to all EU member countries. Okay, so find attaining stronger defensive and political posture, so forming an economic bloc that helps countries gain greater defensive power relative to other countries or world regions. In fact, this was the key motivation for the formation of the European Union. And also belonging to economic bloc helps countries gain bargaining and political power in world affairs. So for example, the EU enjoys greater influences with WTO on trade negotiations than any individual member country. Okay, so these are the rationales for countries to pursue regional economic integration. So what I'm showing you now actually is a figure that illustrates the export within and from the economic bloc to the rest of the world. So the blue bar represents the export from the economic bloc to the rest of the world, and the red bar represents within bloc export. and the vertical axis represent the value of export in billions of US dollars, and the horizontal line represent different examples of economic blocks. So let's take the European Union, for example. As you can see, within block export amounts to nearly 3.4 trillion US dollars, right? Whereas the export from European Union to the rest of the world amounts to nearly 1.8 trillion US dollars. So within block export account for nearly 65% of the European Union's total export, right? But if you have a look at the North American Free Trade Agreement, within block export and export from the block to the rest of the world, so these numbers are almost even, yeah, at a similar level. Whereas within block export only account for something around 25% of the block's total export in the case of a thin block, and it's around 16% in the case of Mercosur block. So what does this comparison indicate? Put it in a different way, what are the implications of this comparison? What are the implications of this comparison? What kind of conclusions can you draw? Please.
That there are less barriers to trade in EU compared to the other three?
What kind of barriers in your?
Tariffs, let's say, for example.
So within block export amounts for nearly 65% of the EU's total export.
Yeah, so that means that they're exporting more integratedly than they're exporting.
Yeah, more integrated. Yeah, EU has been successful in generating trade within the bloc.
Yeah, within the bloc, because they have less barriers integratedly than they have with the external economies.
Excellent. Any other answers? Please.
The relative average development of the economies in each bloc differs. Some export more than we import.
Yeah, so there's about more export than import.
Yeah.
Also the level of region integration UE is a political union, right?
Sorry? EU is not a political union. I just mentioned it's a common market.
Okay, common market is like the level of trade, and comparing those others with which the level are. Like for the NAFTA and I don't know. Like
EU. Yeah. Might be a common market is more advanced. That's a good point. It's a good angle. Yeah, it's a good angle. Yeah. So common market obviously, but only in the case of European Union we can't make a generic, generalization or comment that. We can only say EU perhaps because it's a custom union, it's more integrated. That's why within block trade accounts a lot more in the total export. That's a good angle. But unique point. That's great. That's a good point. Any other answer? Any other answers? So why within block export, the proportion within block export varies in these different economic blocks? North American Free Trade Agreement is a free trade area, and also a thin block is also a free trade area. Mercosur is a custom union. EU is a common market. If we don't think about the type of economic integration, just think about the proportion of export in the block's total export. What kind of conclusion or inference can you draw? As a master student, this is something you must know. It's not enough for you just to look at the figures and tell you which one figure will run smaller. No, you need to understand the implications behind the figures. Yeah, you must know. This is a key skill you must know. Need to understand the meaning implication behind, not just the figure. Why figure? Why it's not the nil? That's not enough at your level. Yeah.
So it just shows that higher integration means higher trade numbers.
That's a good answer. Yes. Yes.
Or the number of countries involved in EU are more than the rest of them.
Yeah, might be. I mean,
Yeah, the whole market.
think in the sense of the proportion of export in total export. Okay, so the implications are a thin block and a multiple block. Do you think they are successful in comparison to North American Free Trade Agreement or European Union? No. Why?
Because there's trade in the bloc compared to external trade, and it shows.
Excellent. See, how do we measure the success of economic bloc? There are so many different economic blocs around the world, but not many of them are successful, right? But how do we measure the success of economic blocs? So this is one way. Look at the proportion of export in the bloc total export. So this figure actually suggests that a thin block and a multiple block haven't succeeded in generating much trade among member countries. So desirably, in a successful economic bloc, within bloc export and export from the bloc to the rest of the world should be at similar but not exactly the same level. Okay, would be like a similar patterns in EU and the North American Free Trade Agreement. Okay, so we know the implications, yeah, and we know how to measure the success of economic bloc, right? Are you with me?
Yeah.
Good, excellent. Now, the question is, what factors help regional integration succeed? You can discuss with your neighbors. We know how to measure the success, but now the question is, what factors help regional integration succeed? You can discuss with your neighbors.
Yeah. Basically, leverage. So you have a
Any answers? What factors help regional integration succeed? Any answers, please? No?
Political government.
good government.
Good government. Yes, that's very important. So something like the political factors. Yeah?
Financial regulations.
Financial regulations, yes, it has to be standardized or similar, right, among member countries. And good political similarities and good economic similarities. Anything else? Please.
The distance between two countries or wherever the country
Yeah,
is involved.
the geographic proximity, right? It has to be closer, yeah? In order to facilitate transportation of product, capital, and other factors of production, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. What do you want to say?
Common values.
Common values, yes. They must have common values. Anything else? Common values in the sense, might be similar language, right? Similar culture. For example, yes.
I think political stability as well.
Yeah, political stability among member countries. It can't be countries like Ukraine, not now. Unfortunately. We don't have anybody from Ukraine, right? In this class. No, okay. Any other answers?
Natural disaster.
Sorry, are you recording something?
No, not really.
Okay. Any other answers? So what factors help regional integration succeed?
The natural disaster. Common crisis.
Common
Crisis.
crisis. So they need to share common aspirations or common goals. But not necessarily all economic blocks need to have a crisis in order to, to be formulated.
How about visions have to be complementary, so one needs each other?
Excellent. So you have to be complementary, either in terms of resources or in terms of political stability or economic factors. That's a great point. So complementarity between either two economies or two different political systems or cultures. Excellent. I think we more or less cover all the factors now. So economic similarities. So the most similar economies of two countries, more likely, or between member countries, more likely the economic bloc will succeed. So significant wage rate differences means workers from lower-wage countries will eventually migrate to higher-wage countries. Okay? Significant economic instability will quickly spread and harm the economy of other member countries. So the compatibility of economic characteristics is so important. The EU requires both its current and prospective members to meet strict membership conditions, ideally low inflation, low unemployment, reasonable wages, and stable economic conditions. And political similarity. The enhances the prospect of a successful bloc. So countries that seek to integrate regionally share some common aspirations and willingness to surrender autonomy for the larger goals of their proposed union. So, for example, most European countries share a long history of stable and socially democratic form of government. But by contrast, many countries or many Europeans have been reluctant to allow Ukraine to join the European Union, partly because of the country's history of socialism and political turmoil. Similarity of culture and language actually among member countries within the economic bloc provides the basis for mutual understanding and cooperation. For example, the Mercosur bloc enjoys advantages because its member countries share many cultural and linguistic similarities. Another example, under the North America Free Trade Agreement, it's easier for a Canadian firm to establish trade and investment relationship in the US than in Mexico because of the similarities between these two northern countries. And geographic proximity, as we discussed before, in fact, most economic blocs are formed by countries within the same geographic region. The geographic proximity facilitates the transportation of labor, capital, products, and other factors of production among member countries. And in fact, neighboring countries tend to share culture and language, right? So these are the factors that help regional integration succeed. Now, what are the disadvantages of regional integration, both at the country and firm level? Again, you can discuss with your neighbors for a few minutes. What are the disadvantages or drawbacks of regional integration, both at country and firm level? Any answer? What are the disadvantages of regional integration at country level? Or you can think about Brexit, think about the UK's situation. Now think about the disadvantages of regional integration.
Employment shifts like in the pattern of employment.
Yeah, employment shift. Most likely
Displacement.
layoffs, work layoffs. Yeah, more likely because of increased competition. If you accept the free movement law, there'll be more foreign workers coming to the UK and to compete with British workers. And foreign workers are willing to sometimes accept low wages. Yeah, so this will lead to worker layoffs within the UK. Yes. That's a good point. Any other answers? Or you put it that way, if you think about the motivation for Brexit, this could be a country level drawback. Yeah?
Pressure to the local manufacturers.
Yeah, pressure, increased competition for local manufacturers, and this the ultimate outcome would be, again, a high and local unemployment rate because of increased foreign competition from other member countries. Yes, that's a great point. Any other answers?
You share common issues.
You share common issues.
Let's say, for example, if you need to accept refugee, then every country or every member of the team needs to take part of it.
So there's so some negative effects can spread to all member countries. Yeah, that's another good point. Think about the trade. Think about the negative impact in terms of trade. Or you could also think about the consequence of increased cross-border contact with among member countries. What would happen if there's increased cross-border contact among member countries?
Disruptions in their trade policies.
They adopt a common, for example, external trade policy. There are many differences. Their trade policies are the same. Increased cross-border contact among member countries. And what is the main motivation for Brexit? The key motivation. Or the advantage of Brexit. So what is the advantage of Brexit? The positive side of a hard Brexit.
They can regulate all economic laws and other laws by themselves.
Excellent. So the UK can take full control of their own economy. But if you form a economic bloc, this means you have to sacrifice your autonomy, especially in terms of the control over your own economy, because at the later stages, a central authority like your EU government will be set up to manage the bloc's common affairs. So each member country must sacrifice some autonomy to the central authority, such as the control over their own economy. This was the key motivation for Brexit. Sacrifice of autonomy. Anything else? Think about the consequence of increased cross-border contact among member countries. Please.
Free movement of criminal activity.
Yeah, free movement of
criminal activity.
Criminal activity. Yes, that's a good point. So now criminal activity, in a sense, the country become more similar. Otherwise, they wouldn't move freely, right? So they would. So if I don't know, if someone wants to steal some money or something, but you do have to understand their language or culture, have some understanding of their body language or whatever. Otherwise, for a foreigner, well, they might feel things because the foreigners coming to your country know nothing. But think about something in common. You heard a sort of sociology theory called social comparison theory. So, for example, you tend to compare yourself to your classmates, your coursemate, or to your friends, or
Peer pressure.
Yeah?
Peer pressure.
Yeah, peer pressure, yes, but this originated from social comparison theory. And what is the consequence if we all compare ourselves to each other? What would happen ultimately? The reason why do we want to compare ourselves to others?
Increased competition?
Increased competition is the ultimate outcome. What we're trying to achieve.
Superiority.
Because increased cross-border contact actually make member countries more similar to each other. So as a result, yeah, we wouldn't we'll lose our identity because we're all similar. We try to compare to each other. We try to achieve other people's level. So essentially, there's no difference. People cannot tell the difference. So one of the natural drawbacks is loss of national identity. For example, under the North American Free Trade Agreement, Canada restricted the ability of U.S. TV and movie producers to invest in Canada's film and broadcasting industry, primarily to protect their national identity. Now think about the trade. So members as trade barriers are removed. The member countries tend to trade more with each other. There will be an effect so-called trade creation, actually, and trade diversion. So trade creation means more trade is generated within member countries because as trade barriers fall, there won't be any tariffs. Members trade with each other. They will continue trading with members outside the economic bloc because they don't have to pay tariffs. Okay, so this is so-called trade creation. Trade diversion means member countries discontinue trading with countries outside the economic bloc because within bloc trade becomes now more attractive because of the elimination of tariffs and other non-tariff trade barriers. So this is so-called trade diversion. So as within bloc trade becomes more attractive and trade with outside countries become less attractive. So as a result, national trade patterns are altered. Okay? And so economic bloc can actually become economic fortresses, leading to more within bloc trade but less trade with countries outside the bloc, which can actually reduce the national free trade. So this is the aggregated effect of regional integration. So these are the country level drawbacks. So what about the firm level drawbacks? What about the firm level disadvantages of regional integration? I think we covered something like increased competition, right? By firms either from other bloc countries or countries outside the bloc, right? So increased competition, what would happen? Think about the consequence of increased competition and the elimination of trade barriers within the bloc.
The competition increases, the entry barrier increases of the market.
Competition reduces the entry barriers, yes.
Yeah, and then that means like the firm can get big, which means monopoly companies getting like higher, and that the big monopoly companies can manipulate the market.
Yes, that's an excellent point. So the transfer of power to advantage firms. So the development of regional marketplace either pressurizes or actually attracts competitors from other countries, both inside and outside the bloc. The foreign invaders are much larger or enjoy stronger brands or other advantages that can easily overwhelm local firms at home market. So over time, economic power will gravitate towards the most advantaged firms within the bloc. Anything else? Think about another important outcome of competition. So if you have competition, you have winners, but you also have losers. Yes. So at firm level, who will lose the competition? Huh? Sorry? So who are the losers of the competition?
Usually who are losing before.
Yes, weaker or smaller
Two
firms.
countries lose.
Excellent point. So the failure of smaller and weaker firms, because as trade barriers fall, So the protections that previously shielded smaller and weaker firms are removed, leading to the failure of smaller and weaker firms. Another point, as Chatali previously mentioned, there will be
Big companies can put the price.
Sorry?
Big companies, they can put the price and the others are follow the price.
The opposite, increased competition push price down.
Really?
Of course.
No, I mean,
Of
if
course.
the competition increases, there's no like small firms. That means they're like big companies, right? And the big companies can manipulate and like put the price on
So
it.
increased competition means no company can manipulate.
No, they can.
No, it is opposite. If there's no competition, you can put up price anytime you want. But increase from, give you an example. If you have only 2 supermarkets in Norwich, yeah, and as opposed to you have 20 supermarkets in Norwich. So in which scenario that you are more likely to get cheaper product? Yeah? The latter one, the
I
second.
think her point was different than you explained right now. She said that if the company gets extremely big, and then that company can manipulate the market.
Impossible. That's a contradictory argument. If you have manipulation, then means there's no competition.
Yes.
Other companies can also become large. Yeah. So if there's a large company, there will be thousands of large companies. Okay. So that's the effect of increased competition. That's a very important economic concept. At your level, you must know increased competition pulls prices down. Okay. If you have 2 supermarkets in Norwich, you're more likely to get very expensive products because there are only two competitors, but as opposed to you have 20, it's out of your control. Your competitor can put price down as low as they can. Yeah? Are you with me?
Yeah.
Good. So increased competition pushes price down. As my students, you must be clear about the scenario. Yeah? It's very important. Right. So, which means, if you have increased competition, this will push the price down, and you have this. Actually, one of the benefits of regional economic integration is actually lower prices for block customers. We just discussed before, and that's the motivation for countries to pursue regional integration is because they want to drive the price down. Yeah. We see increased competition drive price down, benefit customers. Now, the other drawback of firm level drawback of regional integration is corporate restructuring and job loss. Competition also attracts competitors into the local market. Yeah. So essentially, increased competitive pressure might lead to worker layoffs or reassigning workers to distant locations, disrupting workers and the entire community. For example, workshop block is a factor in the layoff of thousands of workers in Argentina's auto part manufacturing sector because low-price auto parts from Brazil flowed into workshop countries, and following the passage of the workshop block. So the intense competition forced auto part manufacturing in Argentina to cut costs, leading to worker layoffs. Okay, so this is another drawback of regional integration at firm level. Now, what are the implications of regional integration for firms? So do you want to have a break for 5 minutes and come back? Yeah? And in the meantime, keep thinking about this question and discuss with your neighbors. And we'll go through that after the break. Okay? And for those of you who cannot figure out why increased competition leads to lower prices, you can read my papers on foreign competition and innovation. It's on the website. Right? Shall we get started again? Yeah? So what are the implications? What are the implications of regional integration for firms? What are the firm level implications of regional integration? Any answers? Firm level implications. Any answers? Regional integration And what are the implications for firms? Firm level implications of regional integration. So what would you do if you're a firm within one of the bloc countries? So regional integration, what kind of opportunities could you potentially have?
Try to innovate and get better trade deals or enhance and improve the trade relations with other countries.
Yeah. So given they have the preferential treatment, so they enjoy the tariff. So what would they do? How can they take advantage of the preferential treatment or the elimination of trade barriers within the economic bloc? What would they do?
Exposure to wider market.
Yes, excellent point. So in fact, regional integration for firm level integration is the firm can internationalize to other neighboring countries, right? So initially, regional integration either pressurizes or encourages companies or competitors from neighboring countries to internationalize into other bloc countries. But the elimination of trade barriers also present new opportunities to source input goods from other foreign suppliers within the economic bloc because there are no trade barriers. So for example, one company which is called Home Depot. You heard of that? It's American retailer of home improvement and construction products. Expanded into Mexico following the passage of North American Agreement. So expansion into neighboring countries provide valuable experience, prompting internationalization to other countries worldwide. Any other answers? I heard previously some of you mentioned there will be big companies as a result of regional integration. Right? So what are the implications? Because if you want to export to other markets, so your potential market becomes bigger, right? Bigger and bigger. So how would the firm organize their activities?
Mergers.
Excellent. There will be mergers and acquisitions. So the formation of regional integration might also lead to mergers and acquisition, partly due to the rationalization of operations. For example, two joint companies you might heard. One is a Swedish company called FCAD, and the other company called Brown Oracle, and it's a Swiss company. So these two joint engineering companies, they merged to form a new company called FCAD, following the formation of the European Union. So the merger allowed the new company to increase its research and development activities and put greater capital funding for major projects, such as the construction of large-scale power plants and industrial equipment. Anything else? Now, from managers' aspect, so if you're managing a firm, now expanded into other neighboring countries.
For the stock development, we need like client information is what they want, which is diversified, as you see. Like you have to take all the aspects of all the regions which are in the block.
So you should focus on the region as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just your own country.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point. So there will be regional product and marketing strategies. So both by restructuring and consolidating companies' activities, the managers develop firm strategies and firm activities suited for the region as a whole, not just individual countries. And the goals are to cut costs and redundancy and increase efficiency through scale economies, because larger markets facilitate scale economies. So firms centralize their production and marketing instead of decentralizing them into individual countries. Any other points?
I'm thinking about passporting of the regulatory license. Let's say, for example, you're from Malta and it's a small country. It's quite easy to get a license for certain business, and you can passport your license to the UK, which is a larger market, and you don't have to have that hassle to start from scratch in the UK.
That's a brilliant idea. So another important point is internationalization by firms from outside the bloc, because the external trade barrier primarily affects foreign firms, right? Or affect foreign firms' exports. So foreign firms might prefer to enter economic bloc through foreign direct investment, because by building a factory or production facility or sales subsidiary or headquarters anywhere within the economic bloc, a foreign firm can gain access to all member countries within the economic bloc, and most importantly, to the advantages enjoyed by local firms based inside the bloc. So, for example, since the formation of the European Union, before Brexit, the UK used to be the largest recipient of foreign direct investment from the United States. Okay. Likewise, many EU companies invested heavily in Mexico, primarily to gain access to countries under the North American Free Trade Agreement. Okay. Any other point? I mentioned in my own answer. There's another key point, similar to M&A. What leads to M&A? I already mentioned. We covered more or less all the points, but except one point already mentioned in the factors for M&A.
Access to the finances.
Similar to regional product marketing strategy, similar to M&A, it's a factor that explains increased M&A. Okay, let's have a look. Is actually rationalization of operations. So by restructuring and consolidating companies' activities, managers should develop actually firm activities as a whole, not just individual countries. And another example of regional product marketing strategy is, the company JI Tractor. Not sure you know, but so this particular company used to produce 17 different versions of this tractor to comply with varying national regulations regarding the placement of brakes, lights. But since the harmonization of EU product standard and commercial regulations, so this company only actually has to produce only a few models. Actually, they standardize their tractors and produce only a few models, appropriate for serving the entire EU market. Okay, so that's another advantage of regional integration of both firms as a result of regional product and marketing strategy. Primarily because of the standardization of product and streamlining of marketing activities. So regional integration facilitates the standardization of product and streamlining of marketing activities. So now, going to move on to the interesting case, a mini case, Brexit. So I will, before we have the discussion, I will share my tab. Okay. Share my screen.
It was shortly before 5 o'clock this morning that it became clear the UK had taken the historic decision to leave.
The country has just taken part in a giant democratic exercise.
Well done, everybody. Really well done.
I think it's an incredible result.
Stupid, dangerous, reckless.
The unknown. The British people have voted to leave the European Union, and their will must be respected.
This could harbour more rancour and more ill feeling than even after the miners' strike.
I'm so excited the British people have the courage to do this.
The victory for ordinary people, decent people.
It is not independent today.
I don't live in the country I thought I lived in.
It's a huge, crippling, irreversible mistake.
Well, it's just gone 7 o'clock this morning here in Brittany, France. I'm one of the unusual expats who live here but voted for Brexit. I'm really happy. I think it's a great day for both the United Kingdom and also everybody in Europe. Let's redefine what it is to be European and let's just move forward.
So this is one, and that's
I don't know what's wrong, but you can work it out. 20 years to find out. Absolute disaster.
I'm really chuffed and happy to, that's the end there. We can carry on as independent Britain. Very worried about my job, what it's going to be for us.
I think it's a disaster. I think we're a small country. I think we need to be with Europe.
Yeah, I'm glad we're out, but I'm concerned in the short term what's going to happen because the economy is just going to crash from what I can see. Long term, I don't know, it remains uncertain, but short term I think we're going to go through some tough times now.
A bit uncertain about the future, a bit worried. Even talked of leaving now to try and in the next 4 years to find somewhere else.
It's quite a shock. British people have made up their minds. We'll have to live with it.